They call it a friendship with no limits, and Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping have displayed it many a times in the past. The Russian president is in Beijing. His first foreign tour this year, it coincides with the 25th anniversary of the Treaty of Good Neighborliness and Friendly Cooperation between Russia and China. It also comes, remember, less than a week after American President Donald Trump was in China, where he was accorded an extravagant banquet, but wasn't handed out much of a substantial deal. In contrast, President Putin's visit feels more low-key, with little information having been released in advance. As per reports during Trump's visit, Xi Jinping had jokingly name-dropped Putin to Trump when the two leaders were walking through Zhongnanhai, telling him how the Russian president had visited the place before him. So while the Americans hoped that they can slightly wear off Moscow's influence on Beijing, clearly that is a tough task. Remember, despite differences on some issues, Russia and China have ensured that trade flows and diplomacy is strengthened. In the Hormuz crisis, China's own risk, which it had taken on Russian energy, now seems to be showing results. China's domestic energy security in an increasingly volatile world has been secured, at least for the time being, thanks to Russia. In line with this, the two leaders will talk in detail about the Power of Siberia 2 pipeline, for which Russian gas giant Gazprom and the China National Petroleum Corporation reportedly signed a preliminary deal after years of stalled negotiations. Now, this pipeline is expected to be a game changer, delivering 50 billion cubic meters of Russian gas to China via Mongolia. But it's not just the Iran war. Putin and Xi are aware that the Chinese silence against Russian aggression on Ukraine can be used in its own invasion of Taiwan if and when it decides to. Putin had last visited China in September 2025 for the annual summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. At the time, Xi Jinping had called Putin an old friend, while the Russian leader addressed Xi as his dear friend. Then in April this year, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov visited Beijing. He and President Xi described the relationship as precious in the current international context. So where does this leave America, a country which, under Donald Trump, is getting increasingly isolated from allies and has been embroiled in multiple wars? Well, remember, by hosting foreign leaders, China is seeking to strengthen its own image as a pillar of global stability, as opposed to America, which is struggling to end the war in Ukraine and contain a separate war with Iran that has disrupted global energy flows across the world and increased inflation at home for Americans. America, many believe, has been seeking support from Russia and China through back-channel talks to convince Iran to concede to Donald Trump's demands, essentially provide an off-ramp to Trump to get out of this war. On the other hand, you've got Iran that sees support from Putin and Xi as very critical to hold off American forces. And the United States is aware that Russia has been offering intelligence and satellite support to Iran. In a March interview with the Fox News channel, Donald Trump said, and I quote him, "A bit. Moscow might be helping them a bit." Now, while Washington and Moscow battle it out, at the center of it is Beijing. The Russia-China partnership highlights the growing pressure on the United States in the uncertainty that it has created and it finds itself in. Observers say that the Xi-Putin summit will send a signal to the world that the China-Russia strategic partnership remains steadfast, and any attempt by the United States to create a rift between them is destined to fail.